The World Championships in Athletics is the pinnacle of the outdoor track and field season. Held every 2 years, it brings together nearly 2,000 athletes from over 200 countries, all battling for glory across sprints, jumps, throws, and long-distance events. It's one of the largest sport events in the world, rivaled by the Olympics, of course, in terms of global participation and depth within track and field. Since 1983, the World Athletics Championships has stood as the ultimate battleground for sprinters, jumpers, throwers, and distance runners. This event exists purely to celebrate the best in track and field. Unlike the Olympics, which shares the spotlight with dozens of other sports, like gymnastics and swimming, the World Championships is all about track and field. So let's take a look back at how it all started, and how the World Championships became what it is today. In 2025, the event returns to Tokyo for its 20th edition, drawing nearly 2,000 athletes from over 200 countries for 9 days of competition. More than 4 decades later, the championships have undergone significant changes and restructuring, evolving into the highly organized event we know today. But this wasn't always the case. The world champs were born out of controversy. In 1976, the men's 50-kilometer race walk was removed from the Olympic schedule. World Athletics, then known as the IAAF, responded by launching its first limited world championship, featuring only that event. 3 years later, in 1980, the IAAF organized another limited championship, this time for women. They set up 2 events, the 400-meter hurdles and the 3,000 meters, both approved by the federation, yet ultimately excluded from the Moscow Olympics. Rather than wait for Olympic recognition, the IAAF gave these athletes a stage of their own in Netherlands. These isolated efforts made one thing clear: athletics needed its own independent global championship. That vision became reality in 1983, when the first full-scale World Athletics Championships were held in Helsinki, featuring a complete slate of events for both men and women.
Welcome from Helsinki. This magnificent stadium hosts today the first World Championships in Athletics, which many expect to be the greatest athletics meeting in history.
A total of 41 events were contested, including the debut of the women's heptathlon, which replaced the pentathlon. The championship brought together approximately 1,300 athletes from 154 countries, making it one of the most international sporting events of its time. Notably, both East Germany and West Germany participated as separate nations. East Germany topped the medal table with 9 golds, totaling all medals to 19. The United States followed closely with 24 total medals, while the Soviet Union rounded out the top 3. Some nations were notably absent. South Africa was banned due to apartheid policies, and Kenya, now a distance-running powerhouse, managed only a single medal despite having several finalists in some events. Among the standout performances was Jarmila Kratochvílová of Czechoslovakia, who dominated the 400 and 800 meters, setting a world record of 47.99 seconds in the 400 meters. Lewis claimed a sprint double and helped the U.S. team to a world record in the 4x100 meter relay. There was no prize money at the time. Athletes competed purely for medals and national pride. Formal cash rewards wouldn't be introduced until 1997, when winners began receiving up to $60,000. The event ran from August 7 to August 14th, over 7 days of intense competition. Doping controls did exist, but testing was limited. The IAAF conducted urine-based testing focused mostly on stimulants and anabolic steroids. There were no public doping scandals in 1983 or 1987, though suspicions loomed, especially around some dominant performances. The World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, wouldn't be established until 1999, leaving early testing under national athletics bodies and IAAF supervision. In 1987, the second official championship traveled to Rome, Italy.
Carl Lewis, the greatest long jumper in the world, Postadinova.
Ed Moses, the greatest champion in the history of this event.
Jackie Joyner-Kersee.
The event expanded to 43 competitions, with the addition of the women's 10,000 meter and the men's 20-kilometer race walk. A total of 1,450 athletes from 159 nations participated. The USA topped the medal table with 10 golds, 20 in total. Bulgaria surprised with a strong second-place finish. Kenya began to emerge as a force, earning 3 gold medals. This edition also saw the debut of para-athletics exhibitions. Stefka Kostadinova of Bulgaria set a high jump world record by clearing 2.09 meters. Still, no athletes tested positive for banned substances, although skepticism remained about some performances. 4 years later, in 1991, the World Championships moved to Asia for the first time. Japan hosted the third edition, which would mark the end of the championship's 4-year cycle. The number of events remained the same at 43, but athlete participation rose to 1,600 from 165 nations. For the first time, a unified Germany competed. Following the country's reunification in 1990, the US dominated again with 26 medals. The Soviet Union and unified Germany followed respectively for second and third. Katrina Krabbe, formerly of East Germany, won the 100 and 200-meter sprints under the new German flag. This Tokyo edition also introduced several innovations: live reaction time displays during sprints, photo finish visuals for jumps, and a new urethane track surface offering improved grip and performance. The championship's climax came when Mike Powell of the US broke Bob Beeman's 23-year-old long jump world record, soaring to 8.95 meters, a record that still stands in 2025. Carl Lewis and Michael Johnson further established US sprinting dominance, setting the stage for a new era. Starting in 1991, the World Championships would no longer be held every 4 years. The IAAF shifted to a biennial format, setting up the tournament to occur every 2 years, a rhythm that continues today. By 1993, the World Championships had matured, and Germany made that clear. It was the first edition held in a non-Olympic year after switching to a biennial schedule, signaling that track and field was now a sport with its own rhythm, not one that simply followed the Olympics. Over 1,600 athletes from 187 nations competed. This edition also marked the official return of South Africa to global competition, after being excluded from international athletics for nearly 2 decades due to apartheid sanctions. Although no South African athlete won a medal, their presence was symbolically powerful. Interestingly, Mark Plotjes, a Johannesburg-born athlete who had gained U.S. citizenship, won gold for Team USA in the men's marathon, one of the most remarkable narratives of the meet. The USA dominated the medal table with 25 medals, followed by China and Russia. But the moment that shook the world came from Colin Jackson, who broke the 110-meter hurdles world record with 12.91 seconds, a time that would stand unchallenged for 13 years.
Jackson going away, 2 to go. Jackson takes it.
Athletes were beginning to talk more openly about appearance fees and prize money, though pay was still inconsistent. For many, the prestige of the World Championships was finally starting to equal the Olympics, but financially it hadn't caught up yet. As for TV broadcasting, Stuttgart was a triumph. Nearly 600,000 fans attended in person, but millions watched across Europe, Asia, and parts of Africa, increasingly through satellite TV. That global reach would be critical in shaping the sport's future. Following championships in 1995, Sweden were the host nation. Michael Johnson stunned the world by winning both the 200 and 400 meters, something never done before at World Champs. That cemented him as the face of a new sprinting generation. Meanwhile, the women's 5,000 meters was introduced, replacing the outdated 3,000, giving long-distance runners more space to shine. The USA topped the medal table again, but this time with 12 golds. TV viewership was massive. Thanks to satellite feeds, the championships reached over 180 countries, with live coverage in Asia and Latin America for the first time. This was also the championship where women's triple jump was introduced, another step toward gender equity. The IAAF realized this could become a global property. Athens, with its scorching heat and passionate home crowds, brought drama from start to finish. The stadiums weren't always full, but when they were, they roared. In the men's 100, Maurice Green took gold, ushering in a new American sprint dynasty. Meanwhile, Hicham El Guerrouj won gold in the 1500, beginning a legendary reign over middle-distance running. The USA led the medal table again, but this time, Kenya and Ethiopia were rising fast in the distance events, changing the global balance of power. By then, appearance fees were standard. Prize money was officially introduced for the first time, with gold medal winners receiving $60,000, silver at $30,000, and bronze at $20,000. World record setters were earning an additional $100,000. And finally, the cracks in doping enforcement reached a breaking point. The IAAF's internal testing protocols were increasingly seen as inadequate, and athlete trust was eroding fast. The blueprint for a new, independent anti-doping agency was already in motion, but it wouldn't be realized just yet. The turning point came in 1998 with the Festina cycling scandal, which exposed the scale of organized doping and forced the global sports community to act. While the 1999 World Championships in Seville went ahead under the old system, the urgency was clear. The pressure for change had reached its peak, and the next World Championships in Spain would become the backdrop for that shift. Don't forget to hit that like button. This helps the video get recommended. If you are new here, welcome to the channel and subscribe. In 1999, Spain marked the turning point in global TV rights. The IAAF struck broadcasting deals that reached over 200 countries, with primetime slots in Japan, the US, and Brazil. This was the first time broadcasters paid serious money for the rights, solidifying athletics as a commercial product. The sprinting spotlight belonged to Maurice Green, who made history by winning the 100 meters, 200 meters, and anchoring the 4x100 meter relay, the first man to claim all three in a single championship. Yet it was Michael Johnson who delivered the technical masterpiece, smashing the 400-meter world record with a time of 43.18 seconds, a world record that would remain unbroken until 2016. The USA once again topped the medal table. The 2000s began with a shakeup. For the first time since the early 1990s, the USA did not top the medal table at a World Championships. That honor went to Russia, signaling that the new millennium wouldn't be business as usual. The US came in second and Kenya in third. Canada hosted nearly 1,600 athletes from 189 nations. The sport's structure caught up with the times. Digital scoreboards, growing internet coverage, and more polished event organization gave it a modern edge. On the track, the standout moment came from El Garouge, who defended his 1,500-meter title. The World Championships returned to Europe, this time to France, marking a full-circle moment for a continent with deep track and field routes. The Stade de France was packed, the atmosphere electric, and the meet felt like a celebration of the sport's classical home. 2003 delivered one of the clearest warnings yet, that doping was still alive and dangerously present. Kelly White, the American sprinter, became the face of that warning. She dazzled with wins in both the women's 100 and 200, only to test positive for modafinil, a stimulant that was not yet on the IAAF banned list at the time, but banned by the IOC. The case exposed a major loophole in the anti-doping system and fast-tracked changes to combat it. Modafinil was officially banned months later, and the pressure to establish a more centralized global agency led to WADA strengthening its reach. It was a turning point that helped shape today's stricter, harmonized doping rules. Beyond that scandal, the championships also gave birth to legends. An 18-year-old Eliud Kipchoge shocked the world by outkicking Hicham El Garouge and Kenenisa Bekele in the 5,000. This was also the year a lesser-known rule change took hold. False start regulations began tightening, no longer allowing multiple false starts in a single race without disqualification. It laid the groundwork for the stricter zero-tolerance policy introduced in 2010. Few fans noticed at the time, but it would deeply affect sprint events in the years to come. 22 years after hosting the inaugural edition, the World Championships returned to Helsinki in 2005. Justin Gatlin delivered a powerful 100 and 200 double. In the pole vault, Russia's Yelena Isinbayeva soared into history, becoming the first woman to clear 5.01 meters and setting a new world record in the process. The introduction of athlete biological passports was being prepared, shaping a future where long-term profiling would be the gold standard in the modern athletics. For the first time since Tokyo 1991, the World Championships returned to Japan, the only Asian country to have hosted the event. But unlike the four-year cycle of the past, Osaka 2007 came under the new biennial format. In this championships, Tyson Gay became only the third man in history, after Carl Lewis and Maurice Green, to win the 100, 200, and 4x100 meters relay at a single World Championships. It was a commanding show of American sprint depth and, as it would turn out, the final time that the U.S. would sweep the sprint podiums before Jamaica's golden era took hold. The winds of change were already blowing. Asafa Powell still held the 100-meter world record, and whispers of a young Jamaican named Usain Bolt were growing louder. Osaka was the end of an era. The last dominant stand of American sprinting before the storm from the Caribbean rewrote everything. 2009 in Berlin, Germany, we saw the golden sprinting era. Usain Bolt tore apart the record books, clocking 9.58 in the 100 and 19.19 in the 200. But while the world gushed over Bolt's brilliance, few noticed how Berlin also became a battlefield of politics and gender. South Africa's Caster Semenya crushed the women's 800, only to be pulled into a firestorm of controversy over sex testing. This occurrence would later lead to the enactment of strict scrutiny laws regarding transgender participation in women's events. Berlin also introduced the full enforcement of the zero-tolerance false start rule in sprints, effective the next year. In 2011, South Korea became the second Asian nation to host the champs. Daegu was supposed to be a Bolt show, but the unthinkable happened. In the 100-meter final, Bolt false started and was disqualified.
Oh no! Oh no! The whole crowd will go.
Wow,
because that was
is
Usain
a
A
Bolt.
single twitch and the star of the sport was gone.
Massive
The fans were disappointed, but it proved the IAAF was serious about its new zero-tolerance policy. Meanwhile, Mo Farah announced his arrival with a silver and gold. USA came out on top, followed by Kenya and Jamaica respectively. The powerhouse Russia would host the next championships in Moscow, 2013, and as the home favorites, they topped the medal table. However, following the disqualification of Russian sprinter Antonina Krivoshabka for doping, and after the redistribution of medals in the women's 4x400 meters relay, as well as after a series of other disqualifications of Russian athletes for doping offenses, the United States moved to the top of the medal table with 8 golds. In the overall medal count, the United States won 26 medals in total. The competition was fierce, but Russia's own doping program had already started raising red flags. Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce crushed the women's sprints, winning the 100, 200, and 4x100, a historic triple. Usain Bolt returned to clean up, triple gold again, but this time he was carrying a crumbling system. Many of his competitors would later test positive. The championship introduced heavier scrutiny and out-of-competition testing, but Russia's own program was largely trusted until it all collapsed 2 years later.
Of the World Anti-Doping Agency back in January this year, as Russia tried to clear its name. It has been banned since 2015 when it was accused of manipulating samples given by athletes, an operation that was said to involve even the FSB, the former KGB.
The event to come back to Asia in 2015, this time in Beijing, China. Usain Bolt delivered again. He beat Justin Gatlin in one of the most watched races of all time, a showdown between a hero and a former doper. But it was also the year of Ashton Eaton's decathlon world record and a rising Genzibe Dibaba, who broke the 1,500-meter championship record. 5 years after hosting the Olympics, the champs came back to England. London 2017 was Usain Bolt's final bow, but the curtain didn't fall as expected. He finished third in the 100-meter, overtaken by Justin Gatlin and Christian Coleman. In his last ever race, the 4x100-meter relay, Bolt pulled up injured on the anchor leg, not with a blaze of glory, but a grimace and a limp. Gatlin, once banned for doping, claimed gold to a chorus of boos, a symbolic moment where the crowd rejected the winner and mourned the fading of a legend. The irony was sharp. Bolt, the sport's savior, exited wounded. The man who once stained it stood atop the podium. Doha 2019 was surreal. A world championship in an air-conditioned stadium. Held in October due to Qatar's heat, most races were empty. The women's marathon was run in 31 degrees Celsius at midnight. That brutal marathon saw 28 of 68 runners drop out. Some athletes collapsed and were carried off or escorted from the course, prompting concerns over athlete safety. Despite the harsh conditions, it gave us Noah Lyle's first world title, Dalilah Muhammad's world record of 52.16 in the 400-meter hurdles. In 2022, the World Championships came home to Hayward Field, Oregon. It was the first time the event was held on U.S. soil. Sydney McLaughlin ran a 50.68 world record in the 400-meter hurdles, one of the greatest performances in history. Faith Kipyegon reclaimed her throne. Mondo Duplantis soared to 6.21 meters in pole vault. And for the first time, World Athletics openly partnered with influencers and streamers, a bold move to repackage the sport for Gen Z. Budapest was a renaissance. A nearly sold-out stadium, smooth operations, and thrilling drama. Sha'Carri Richardson silenced critics with 100-meter gold, defeating Shericka Jackson and Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce. Jackson returned the favor with a 21.41 in the 200, just 0.07 shy of Flo-jo's record. Josh Kerr shocked Jakob Ingebrigtsen in the 1,500 meters, and Neeraj Chopra gave India its first ever. From its humble beginnings in Helsinki in 1983 to its evolution into one of the most prestigious global sporting stages, the World Athletics Championships have captured 4 decades of brilliance, heartbreak, transformation, and legacy. We've seen the rise of generational icons, the fall of fraudulent victories, and the constant push of human limits. World Athletics has announced the World Athletics Ultimate Championships set to debut in Budapest. Unlike the traditional World Championships, this event will feature only the very best, just 8 to 16 athletes per event. This will surely be big.